This video, I want to take a look at buying a house versus buying an apartment. This is not legal advice. It is advice based on my experience of buying and selling property since 1986. So we're going to take a look at some issues, some pros and cons, and what factors really should be feeding into your decision whether to buy a house or buy an apartment. That's assuming you have a choice, of course. Firstly, though, even though this is not legal advice and the whole tape or video is not legal advice as such, there is an important legal difference between an apartment and buying a house. An apartment will have a long leasehold interest. So what you'll have is a long lease with a very, very small little rent. But that is essentially how an apartment is held from a legal perspective. A house, on the other hand, will be a freehold interest. You will own the freehold. An apartment then will have an owner's management company. So each owner of an apartment will be a member of this management company, and each owner will have one vote. The management company, its responsibility is to look after common areas like stairs, lift, roof, gardens, green area, waste management, cleaning, and also to draw up management company rules for the satisfactory occupation or daily living in the apartment block. And it will also have an obligation to gather in the management company fees and service charges for the day-to-day running of the apartments. It will also probably employ or engage the services of a managing agent, and it is obliged by law, by the Multi-Unit Development Act of 2011, to set up a sinking fund for repairs. So if you consider an apartment block might have 8 apartments in it, it might have 15, might have 20, it's going to have a roof. And that roof, if it was, for example, struck by lightning, it's going to need to be replaced or repaired. Now, people on the ground floor, for example, or the first floor or second floor, may not have any direct contact with that roof. In other words, it may only affect the people in the top apartment or top floor of apartments. However, it's one for all for one. So everybody's in a management company, everybody contributes, and then repairs and a sinking fund and so on and so forth is there for the benefit of every owner of every apartment. So that's what the sinking fund would be for. The owner's management company also, or the managing agent, if one is appointed, and generally one would be appointed, would have a responsibility for debt collection. So from non-paying owners of apartments who for whatever reason refuse or are slow to pay their management company charges, their annual service charges, they can be collected as a simple matter of debt collection by the managing agent, probably instructing solicitors to do it. The owner's management company have also an obligation to produce annual accounts for all of the members, all of the owners, and to file them with the company's registration office. And obviously one of the big areas that a management company will be obliged to do will be take out an insurance policy on the whole block, or indeed if there are more than one block, or if there is more than one block, and indeed for common areas. So that's what an owner's management company does. You're going to come across that in an apartment situation, in a multi-unit development situation. Some of the downsides then, or some of the pros and cons to do with living in an apartment. Well, you're probably more likely to encounter noisy neighbours in an apartment block than you would in a house, particularly obviously in a one-off house, either in a town or a country. You're not going to have such a big problem with noisy neighbours. However, if you are in an apartment block and you have noisy neighbours each side of you, then that can be a problem. You may also have a problem with antisocial behaviour. Now, you can have antisocial behaviour obviously anywhere, in any estate or in any town or village, but if you have it in an apartment block, well then you may it may create great difficulties for you. A difficulty there, or a feature with apartments, is that you're much less likely, I suppose, to have owner-occupiers. You're probably going to have more investors. You're probably going to have a more transient population of people, like maybe students or young professionals or whatever. And you may not have just the same commitment to family living that you might want if you have a spouse and a couple of children or whatever, you know. Another thing to consider is the question of leaks from one property to another. It can happen through a balcony, for example, leaking from the apartment above down onto the apartment below. Or it can happen, for example, if an overflowing bath in an apartment above leads to leaking through floorboards or whatever. These apartments are not hermetically sealed, so there can be some difficulties from time to time with damage caused from, you know, a leak from one apartment to the other and who's responsible and so on. As I say, a lot of times apartments are investment properties, so they won't be owner occupied. So you may not have that same buy-in or that same commitment to, you know, normal sort of family living or whatever. You may have young people, you may have students having a crack and so on, and that's just a factor. Apartments, though, have an advantage in that they're low maintenance. So you don't have, you know, a big back garden or front garden to maintain. You don't have to maintain shrubs or flowers or anything of that nature. Your painting costs, etc., for an apartment may not be any, but even if there was some, clearly they're going to be a lot less than repainting your house every few, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 years or whatever. And you're not going to have the hassle of mowing a lawn or maintaining flowers and shrubs and so on. So that may be a factor as you get on in years. Clearly, another advantage with an apartment is that all else being equal, an apartment will be cheaper than a house. Now that's assuming all things are equal. However, an apartment in Dublin, obviously, or Dublin South Side, is going to be a lot more expensive than most houses outside of Dublin and houses down the country. But these are things that you need to weigh up yourself and do your shopping around in your due diligence. A house then, on the other hand, is much less likely to have any management company. It is possible that a house will have a management company or be involved in a management company, and it is possible that you will have to pay management company fees. For example, in a townhouse situation, or perhaps a terraced house in a multi-unit development or a managed development. But by and large, your ordinary house on an estate, a 3-bed semi or a 4-bed semi or a 4-bed detached or one-off house in the country, there won't be a management company, so you don't need to worry about that. You stand or fall on your own 2 feet. The situation in the state then is that the local authority will eventually take the estate in charge. It'll be responsible then for common areas, roads, lighting, footpaths, cutting grass and so on. Until then, until the local authority take it in charge, you're going to have an indemnity from the builder of the estate in relation to maintaining common areas, roads, footpaths, green areas and so on and so forth. That can be a problem insofar as sometimes developers go to business, and until the local authority takes the estate in charge, there can be a gap there or a problem insofar as the management company or the developer who originally gave an indemnity, that indemnity is clearly now worthless given that the company has gone out of business. A one-off non-estate house, for example, I live in the countryside in County Kildare, there's no management company, there's no services. I have my own well, my own septic tank. The only service that I have is the road that's outside my property, maintained by Kildare County Council, and indeed maintained, it might be too strong a word, but anyway, that's, you know, the situation in a one-off house in the country. In conclusion, your personal circumstances are obviously going to be a huge factor in your choice of a house or apartment. Your budget is going to be a factor. Your family, children situation will be a big factor. Clearly, you know, a house or 3-bed semi or a house in the country may be better in the medium to long term if you have a family or intend having a family, rather than living in maybe a 2-bedroom apartment in a big complex. Obviously, the stage in your life is going to be a big factor. So low maintenance in later years may be attractive to you, and you may not have the inclination to be mowing grass and maintaining gardens and shrubs and so on. Space, obviously, in the early years for family or children is a big factor. So you're not going to have that in an apartment. Obviously, you will have it in a house. The Irish then historically have an affinity of houses and with freehold properties. This goes back, I suppose, to a great extent to the landlord days and the bad experience Irish people have had with landlords, and even the mention of a leasehold in relation to an apartment does, for some people, create a bit of a mental block or a problem. But the leasehold there's no difficulty with a leasehold property, provided there's a good management company and that the rent obviously is small peppercorn rent and so on. Apartments, obviously, apartment living is much more established and accepted in continental Europe, for example, France, Germany, etc., than it is in Ireland. And in Ireland, once apartments became a factor or a feature in the property market, the whole question of managing them and owners, management companies and management company fees and service fees and charges and so on did become a problem, because we simply didn't have a historical or cultural acceptance or experience with apartments. But probably we're getting a bit better now. Hope you find this video useful. My name is Terry Gorey. I'm a solicitor in Enfield, County Meath. If you do find it useful, you might give it a thumbs up down below and subscribe to my YouTube channel.